Next up is Respiratorius and CEO Johan Drott. Welcome, Johan.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm going to present Respiratorius as today, and the company is developing innovative drugs to significantly improve the treatment for aggressive lymphoma. This time is going to be a little bit different presentation, but to start with, Respiratorius was founded as a research spin-out from Lund University in the late 90s. The initial aim was to develop new effective drugs, candidate drugs for treatment of respiratory diseases such as COPD and severe asthma. In 2012, Respiratorius acquired the rights to the asset VAL001 by the acquisition of the company VAL001, and the asset VAL001 has been developed through early clinical studies with very promising results, and is now being prepared for a phase 3 study. In parallel with the activities on VAL001, we have now developed a candidate drug for COPD and severe asthma. However, over the last couple of months, I would say, we have been working on a spin-out of the asset on respiratory diseases with the lead candidate RCD405. And the current situation is that RCD Pharma, which is a subsidiary of Respiratorius, is prepared for a spin-out. And the decision of a spin-out is pending the annual general meeting, which will be held in 9th of June. So, going forward, Respiratorius will now be a company developing candidate drugs for the treatment of aggressive lymphoma, such as diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. And the asset then is VAL001, with actually two indications. First of all, we have the indication of the standard treatment of diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. But also, based on recent results, we have also discovered that valproate is effective also on relapsing diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, and thus it is in preclinical stage. The company is based on out-licensing. The model is based on out-licensing of the assets, and we have always been working on having continuous partnering discussion throughout the development. And today we have activities ongoing for VAL001, which will be intensified going forward, especially based on the new results. The background to VAL001 is, as it is intended for the treatment of diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, which is the most common type of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Annually, about 60,000 people are diagnosed with diffuse large B-cell lymphoma in Europe and US, and the 5-year overall survival when treated is about 60 to 70%. However, the problem is that 10 to 15% are primarily refractory to the first-line therapy. And 40% of those who actually respond to the first-line treatment, which is R-CHOP and immunochemotherapy, they relapse within, 40% relapse within 18 to 24 months. And as you can see, the overall non-Hodgkin's lymphoma market, medication market, is increasing annually, and diffuse large B-cell lymphoma accounts for about 30% of the total market. Based on preclinical research, we found that valproate can be used as a pre-treatment, as a sensitizer for chemotherapy, through condensation of the chromatin, and as well as it has an effect on gene expression and cell cycle. In our first phase 1 study, we also showed that valproate increases the expression of CD20 in diffuse large B-cell lymphoma patients. Valproate has been used since the 60s to treat epileptic patients mainly. And by then it has a well-known safety profile and which reduces the risk in the development of a new drug. And since it was available, we were able to use the standard formulation for epileptic patients in our phase 1/2 study, which came out with very encouraging and positive results, as we showed that we can show a significantly improved survival benefit by addition of valproate before the treatment with immunochemotherapy. In our study, we had a 1 and 2 year overall survival on 100, respectively 96%, which is very encouraging. And when comparing with the standard therapy, by means of having a match pair analysis with patients from the Swedish Lymphoma Registry, we saw a more than 10% increase in overall survival, and also a 80% reduction of the risk of mortality. These results were presented to EMA in a scientific advice meeting, where the result of the meeting was that Respiratorius were able to move directly to a phase 3 study. And as we also discussed about having a dedicated formulation for the new indication, additional data on pharmacokinetics should be then supplemented. And the new formulation, which we have been working on and concluded the development activity, is a combination of immediate and extended release granules and pellets. This new formulation is then tailored for the new indication as a pre-treatment to immunochemotherapy in diffuse large B-cell lymphoma patients. And it allows for twice daily dosing. And the formulation is now being evaluated in a PK study, where we evaluate the actual PK results in patients. And the initial part of the study, where we evaluated the safety profile, came out very positive. And we are now moving forward with the study, and we expect to have a closeout by Q2 in 2022. And the new formulation is important, as it is there are no available formulation of valproate on the market that is supporting the new supporting the use as a pre-treatment, and so it is important for the asset as such. However, in parallel with the development activities and the PK study, we have performed preclinical studies, laboratory studies, where we have been able to show that valproate can also be used as a pre-treatment when R-CHOP is with the addition of etoposide. And the proliferation of the cells were decreased, which means that we anticipate to have the similar results both as we had with R-CHOP as with R-CHOEP. And also important to understand is that this will simplify for a phase 3 study, because CHOEP is intended for use for more ill patients or severely ill patients. So a phase 3 study, the recruitment of a phase 3 study will be simplified. Just recently, the other week, we also presented results showing that valproate might also be used as a pre-treatment to relapsing patients, which would then be a new indication for valproate and VAL001. And this addition of this indication further strengthens the position for VAL001 in negotiations as well, which is also an important factor to understand that relapsing patients might be a faster route to marketing approval as well as first sales of an approved drug. So it is an important addition. And last but not least, it also showed that valproate has a beneficial effect on all diffuse B-cell lymphoma patients. Recently emerging data, I think I discussed this previously, is a study on Polivy and the Polarix trial. And without going into the detail about the study, we can conclude that one of the primary endpoints of the study was progression-free survival, where you can see that the VAL001 study, which is the phase 1/2a study of valproate in combination with immunochemotherapy, we had a superior results compared to the study on Polivy. And last but not least is the fact that we had a much better result on overall survival, where Polivy didn't show any overall survival differences between the standard treatment with R-CHOP. So to conclude, this study strengthens the position of VAL001. The milestones we have accomplished so far during 2021 and 2022 is that we have a phase 3 study design, which is confirmed by EMA. And going forward with our partnering activities, we will also discuss whether and also a scientific advice meeting in some form with FDA would be positive or add further value in the overall package of VAL001. We have been able to select a prototype for the new formulation of valproate. And we have produced the new drug for the PK study, and the study is ongoing right now. And we have preliminary safety data, which came out positive in February, and we expect to have a closeout in the study during Q2 this year. We have preclinical results, both on addition of etoposide as well as the recent results on relapsing diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. We will now focus on partnering activities, so there is no plan for further clinical work, as we have concluded the PK study. With regards to patent activities, we have an ongoing prosecution of the initial patent file on the new formulation. And as the PK study is concluded and we have supporting data from the PK study, we expect to file further patent. And as we press release the results from the relapsing diffuse large B-cell lymphoma study, we also file a patent on the new indication. So we have ongoing activities within IP. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm open to some questions.
That's good, because I have a couple for you.
Oh, thank you.
As you said, you are now separating the two development projects.
Yeah.
What does this mean, this streamlining mean in terms of maybe enhancing the chances of getting a good deal for VAL001?
Yeah, it simplifies, I would say, from one point that the VAL000 will be clean from RCD405 and also simplifies that opportunity of acquisition of a company from that perspective. And it also it is also positive, especially for RCD405, to be able to focus solely on the project separated from Respiratorius. So I think it's positive. And last but not least, for the shareholders, it's clear where their investment is actually focused on.
Turning more to the slightly practical clinical side of things, you talked here about relapsing patients as a potential new group.
Yeah.
How large a group is that in terms of adding value to
That's a tricky question. I don't have the numbers right now, but as you can see, 40% of the patients actually relapses. So, and annually it's about 60,000 new patients. So it's a significant group that actually relapses. And unfortunately, the prognosis for relapsing patients is quite bad, unfortunately.
And finally then, if you were to come back in a year, where would you want Respiratorius to be then?
Of course, we would hope to be able to strike a deal on VAL001, and it's not only for the company's sake but also for the patient's sake. I mean, evidently with the results we have, both from the phase 1/2A study and also seeing that it is adding value to etoposide and also to relapsing patient, which of course needs to be verified in clinical studies. But I think there is a strong value of valproate and VAL001. So from that perspective, I hope to be able to drive the development of the clinical development of VAL001 further.
Well, I hope I see you before 1 year is up.
Yes,
but
yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you.